Good evening. My name is Noah, and I'm going to be going over the content presentation for week 6. So this week's reading touched on many different topics and subject matters. For example, we had Social Psychology written by Casson, Fine, and Marcus in 2017, focused on the topics of attraction and close relationships, as well as the helping of others. So that would focus on interpersonal relationships, interpersonal reactions, as well as altruism. Moving on, we also have Theories in Social Psychology, written by Polk in 2011, and that focused on assessing equity theory. It assessed on the social rule exchange and the violations that may happen during that time. Moving on, we see that we had Rand et al., which was a journal article, focused on how altruism favors women over men. This was found due to the woman's intuition and the expectancies of society on women to go ahead and participate in those altruistic behaviors. Additionally, we also have Leary et al. In 2015. This journal article focused on the role that social exchange rule violations can have, the impact that it can have on the relationships with others, and the impact that it can have on people observing those relationships as is. Moving on, we're going to be moving on to our first theme. This week's themes there was 5 themes found in this week's readings. The first theme is altruism. The second theme is culture's effects on altruism. The third theme is interpersonal interactions. The fourth theme is equity theory. And the fifth theme is attachment styles. Now we're going to talk a little bit about altruism. So altruism tries to describe a personality that is more likely to help those in need. Altruism is such an interesting concept as it attempts to describe a personality that is more likely to help others. However, trying to describe the altruistic personality has proven to be quite difficult. The reason for this difficulty can be shown as a lack of consistent and reliable characteristics of personality that try to predict the altruistic behaviors found in research the past couple of years, Casson, Fine, and Marcus in 2017. The concept of altruism is additionally interesting due to the preferences and genders that is shown. Women may feel more obligated to participate in altruistic behaviors than men due to the intuition and society pressures. That's found in Rand et al. 2016. The society pressures and the intuition behind the behaviors displayed can be examined by looking into the expectancies of women. Due to societal roles of women traditionally being in helping and caring roles, it is expected of women to act on altruistic behaviors, while men in those same circumstances, it is not expected of them. Rand et al. 2016. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the effect that culture can have on altruism. With cultures looking into that, it's not a cookie cutter example. For example, different cultures may have different levels of altruism within their own subcultures. Think back to civil rights movement and about that time period. People in the South were thought to be more helping, kind-natured, and altruistic. However, in the majority situation, those people in the South may not have those same altruistic behaviors to the other race, especially during those times. Additionally, Spanish and Latin American cultures and their simpatia or simpatico, which is defined as sympathy in both Spanish and Portuguese, that can find that it can have a very strong effect. For example, Spanish and Latin American cultures may have a tendency to be more altruistic due to the culture understanding of helping others in need. They understand that when others are in need, they are obligated to help that person, and if they're not, then they are in fact at blame for their situation in part. Now we're going to move on to interpersonal interactions. So interpersonal interactions attempts to describe the strong and deep association between two people or members of a group. Outside observers may not understand all the underlying factors that go into the relationships at hand. Interpersonal interactions are insightful to observe and research due to the fact that it attempts to describe the strong and deep association between individuals in a group. A wonderful way to see how strong interpersonal interactions between individuals is to see how an interaction may lead to unnecessary or trivial conflict. For example, individuals may develop conflict in a conversation that may seem to have no basis for the conflict, and the debate itself may seem trivial. However, this does not take into account the other factors that may have influenced the individuals at conflict with one another. Leary et al. 2015. Think back to a time when you and your roommates had a disagreement over something, whether it was dishes at the time, and you may have blown up in that situation. You may have gotten angry and frustrated more than you should have. Maybe it's because that over time, the lack of doing the dishes or lack of doing the laundry or household chores has forced you to become exhausted of dealing with that person's behaviors. So, after a while, you may blow up in that situation. And an outsider observing that one behavior of you may look and see that you're at fault for the situation, and you are at fault for not controlling your temper and your cognitive level. But at the same time, they may not understand the influences that the other members of the group had on you. From an outside perspective, it may seem that there is no reason to have a conflict over what to watch on television, for example. However, it may be that one individual never gets to watch what they want, and they believe that once in a while, they should be allowed to watch what they desire. Interpersonal interactions help describe why individuals may be upset due to the trust that was had in the interpersonal relationship. Holt, 2011. Moving on to equity theory. Equity theory attempts to determine if members of a group are receiving their fair share of benefits, as well as contributions within a relationship. Social equity can have a tremendous impact on the functioning of the relationship, can make it dysfunctional, or make it operate even better than before. It seems appropriate to follow up interpersonal interactions with equity theory due to the relationship between the two things. Equity theory can be defined as members of a relationship being satisfied when members of the relationship have similar proportions of benefits and contributions. Casson, Fine, and Marcus, 2017. Individuals of a relationship expect the other members to contribute at the same rate as them, and also expect them to have the same amount of rewards from the relationship. When this is not the case, it can have a drastic effect on the relationship due to imbalance of social equity. However, what is interesting is that even when the relationship is not balanced in social equity, the relationship may still continue. Think back to maybe an old girlfriend or an old boyfriend. You gave and gave and gave, but yet you didn't receive the same amount of affection, love, care, etc. But still you continued with that relationship. Was it the infatuation of a person? Or was it that you did not mind those other features and that's why you put up with it for so long? This may be due to different individuals' perception of the benefits they receive and the contributions they make, and how that equity is viewed. Holt, 2011. Moving on, we're going to talk about our final theme, which is attachment styles. Attachment styles are an excellent tool to look into why individuals exhibit certain behaviors in a relationship. And something that may be a misconception among people is that attachment styles are not only found in romantic relationships, it's found in other relationships as well, such as coaches and players, students and teachers, mentor and mentee. I mean, at the start of the relationship, surely it wasn't always that the mentor was always guiding them throughout the way. Surely they had to build up in some sort of manner to be able to be accepted in that person's life. Attachment styles take a look into why individuals behave in a certain manner and the reason behind those actions. By taking a look into those attachment styles and behaviors exhibited by individuals, it is possible to assign an attachment style to an individual in a relationship. While generally attachment styles are generally thought to be only in romantic relationships, that is not the case, as described before. In fact, attachment styles can be formed and have such an impact that it can form those styles for the rest of the individual's life. For example, a child that has formed an insecure attachment style will more than likely display that same attachment style later in life. Casson, Fine, Marcus, 2017. Why that is, you may ask? It's possibly just because during the childhood, it's a foundation of life. We learn that in our undergraduate courses. And so if that's what you know, that's what you're going to continue to build upon that foundation. And after a while, foundations get very tall, and that is a person's life. However, that is not the entire person's life, and they are able to change. So, as a summary, this week's readings encompassed a wide variety of topics and many themes that were found throughout the readings. As the subject of social psychology grows older, there will be more and more research added to the subject, which will add validation and clarification to the subject matter as well. Now, to follow up this week's readings, I have two questions to ask for y'all. My first question is, due to societal roles found in the Bible, are Christian women more likely to participate in altruistic behaviors than Christian men? My second question is, does the size of the group affect the strength and duration of the interpersonal interactions? For example, are smaller groups more likely to be cohesive for a longer duration than larger groups? Thank you so much for spending your time to watch that presentation. I hope you all have a wonderful night.